Could we get the time there? Welcome again. Today, after we continue our series of missing features of Data Studio. For better or worse, this is maybe like the 8th video that we're doing on missing features, but hey, we
Data
really
Studio
like
is really great.
we really like Data Studio. Alex again here, Ricardo, Thomas back on the next video. And Alex, like I said, Data Studio, we really like it. We recommend it to almost everyone who's working with data to get their visualizations going on there. There's a lot of things that they could improve.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, but just to say it at the beginning again, so it's a free tool, right? So you don't pay a lot of money for it and so on. Everybody can use it. And yeah, and I think also when you're working with a lot of tools, or if you work with a tool, after hours and hours of working with it, you always see things you are missing, which could be better and so on. So yeah. So maybe the first thing is charts, especially when you have two axes. So for example, I don't know, a bar chart or line chart, whatever. And then you have two axes, so X and Z, or as you like. And both have for sure different metrics. So for example, quantity sold and the revenue, for example. Then both for sure have the different data type, and also both are drawing lines at the background.
Mm-hmm.
So for their steps, so for example, for quantity sold, every 100 steps, whatever, and in the revenue you have every 10,000 euros, you have then also a line at the background. And when you have the limit of auto, so it's always aligning on the limit of the data you have inside the chart, then it happened quite quickly that both axes is drawing their lines, but they don't overlap.
Yeah.
So that means that you have a lot of lines in your chart, and then you don't see which line depends on which axis and so on. Yeah. So for that, we then always, or most of the time, we then say, okay, from zero. So is it possible to take out the good lines? So. Okay, could be. And what I mostly do is then to say, okay, the axes go from 0 to 10,000 for quantities, for example, and then also the same steps for revenue.
Mm-hmm.
But there for sure you can then go with something like 0 till 1 million or whatever. But then you have to check that the steps Data Studio is doing are the same for both axes. But then so if the steps are the same, not the numbers, just the steps, then it's also overlapping the lines.
What would you like to see then from Data Studio on it?
Yeah, so that it checks, that it always puts steps behind which make sense, and then also overlapping there. It's maybe quite hard, yeah. I also didn't knew that you can put off the lines, but I think it's still good to do it.
Now there's gonna be a big no, it's not possible in the video, but yeah, I think it is.
So, but I think the lines are still good. So just find a way in terms of always use steps when you have both axes, that it's always overlapping the lines.
I think I always go towards reducing the amount of there's this concept now of data per ink or something, like not trying to put a lot of unnecessary elements in a chart. So if you can do without these grid lines in the background, it's okay, especially with a tool like Data Studio or any visualization that you can hover over and see how much the element is. Often what you're trying to show with the data is the general, the trend of how it's going, like in a chart, or the comparison of how two are going. And that, I mean, everyone can do it without lines in the background, no? Especially then if you can just hover over and see them. And it can get quite distracting, like you said. Then if you have all these lines in the background that are overlapping, I think it's then tough to see.
Yeah. But are you using these two axis thing a lot of times? Because you're also working with people who are not maybe so familiar with dashboards and so on.
Yeah.
Are these things you like, or is it more, it's maybe already too complex or whatever?
I do like them and I do use them, but I use them for very specific situations. Especially, I try to have different units on the sides. So I don't know, like it's time and the y-axis, and then and the two and the x-axis, and then the two y-axis. I have either revenue on one side and number of customers, for example, on the other side. So it's more intuitive for the person looking at it to know what it is. And I also try to have different type of elements in the chart to show. Like for example, in this case, revenue would be a bar chart, and then the customers would be a line chart flowing through it. So then that's easier for a person who has not that much context. Okay, like the axis on the right shows the like with the line, and the axis on the left shows with the bar, and then they can follow it more. Yeah. But yes, it requires a bit of explanation maybe before that. But we do have like sessions of once the dashboard is ready, or like also once a couple of drafts are done, we have sessions in which like an onboarding of the dashboard. And explaining how this works is very important.
Yeah. So yeah, but now we're coming back to best practices needed. But maybe one thing more. So always also check that when you're using these two axis thing, that you always use metrics which are put together or aligning to each other, right? So for example, if you're now in Facebook words or whatever, that you put your spend behind in one line or in one bar, and then you say your revenue, for example, which coming out of Facebook, if you know it, then put that on a line or a bar. So yeah, always use metrics or compare metrics which you can compare for sure, and it makes sense to put it in one chart.
I think a related missing feature on this. So when you're visualizing something that has different types of so we go for bar charts and something, and then for the line chart or something. When the number has a lot of fluctuations and goes from whatever it is down to 0 and continues, and you have a line chart there, sometimes the line goes below the x-axis, no? And that I understand why this is happening. They're just following
technically we understand.
Yeah, the curve that this is making, but then I think that's a clear understanding of like, not maybe it's my theory that people are not getting who's using that type of product. So I think the people making it just follow like what rationally it means to have this visually good looking line. But then if you're a client and you're using that to visualize revenue, and you have this chart that then goes like below, they're like, wait, did we lose money that day? And like, no, it's just that the reports, and then we need to take it out or cancel the like any. So it's maybe a mix of, I would say, like a best practice to cover up for the missing feature. Like you can cap the axis so it never shows negative numbers.
Okay. But how is it then? Is it then also going to 0 or under 0, and then after some millimeters it's go?
No, I think it goes on 0.
On 0.
It looks a bit off, I think. Okay. And I mean that's the workaround, no? But it should be that. I see it like. Rationally, a chart should not go. I understand with the curve above, like it maybe is not representative exactly what it is when it's in positive numbers. But making this change from positive numbers to negatives, I think it implies something way larger. That I don't know, saying 150 when it's 170. I don't know.
I don't use so much these curve lined things. I mostly use the direct things, just direct connected. But yeah, makes sense. Maybe one thing more is the different topic is rotate text fields.
I think it's connected actually, because you could use it for those. I know what you're saying.
So you have text fields for sure in Data Studio where you can put just static text side. And we use them, for example, for headers, for charts, and for tables. Also for explaining stuff, descriptions, whatever, legends. And it would be cool if you can also rotate them. So by 90 degrees.
It's super basic.
Yeah, super basic, yeah. But maybe also due to that it's HTML based or something, it's not so easy. I don't know. But yeah, it's not possible in Data Studio. And for example, what we also saw with one colleague already some days or weeks ago was that he showed, for example, in a stacked bar chart, I think, he shows, for example, the Instagram spend, the Facebook spend, the LinkedIn spend, and so on in one bar chart per day, right? And then they have a lot of stacked charts. And then you see on the x-axis on the left side, you see then LinkedIn spend / Facebook spend / Instagram spend / and so on and so on. So you see all of the metrics you put inside, you also see there, right? And then it would be cool if you just hide them with a white text field, so with the background of the text field is white, and then put just spend in front of it or something like that. We also tried to cheating there a little bit with naming the metrics differently and so on, or don't name them and so on. But it didn't work quite well because, for example, you always have the slash inside. So that would be cool, for example, to also just to be a little bit more flexible, to always rotate the text fields.
Yeah, I don't need absolute flexibility. I don't need to be able to shift them like to every degrees. I would be happy with 90 or 45 would be okay. I don't even know what I would use it for.
Maybe when Data Studio then published in some weeks rotating text fields by 90 degrees, then we will say, yeah, but we also need...
Yeah, we want like 10 by 10. No, I think in general, I can think of many situations. It's not a deal breaker for whatever, but it's something that it would make our lives easier. So much that I've already thought that, okay, what if we connect a data source that then is has the text like in, I don't know, so I could put like a table and then communicate like that. It feels like I'm trying to Morse code communicate something that should be more basic. But What else? What else is missing?
So then your slide filter. There's also one thing you already mentioned in the best practices data chart types.
Yeah,
I think.
So we talked about the date filters there, about not the date, just a normal filter that has a slider. And in general, when displaying a slider, it has, we wanted to have the going both ways, and then also to have specific stops, no? Like if you're having revenue or whatever number is in a large quantity that goes from 0 or from 1 to thousands or something, then Data Studio just flows freely, no? And it's hard to then have like a specific cap. It would be nice to see that, to be able to put it to stop at certain stages, or also to show it like to stop, I don't know, like a 10-20% of it, and also cutting up the outliers, no? Maybe then you have, I just want to see like the 95%, just the 95% in the middle and the 2.5 on each side. Take it away, because then those are like make this range go crazy. And yes, I can manually adjust them. No, like if it's just a one-time thing, yes, I can select, okay, make this a slider filter and cut the max value is, I don't know, 20,000 when it makes sense. But then maybe next month it's just a complete new scenario. So all these things that I find myself doing manual fixes for like a specific one type analysis that I want to let people do, I always start thinking it could be a rule-based thing to show, no? I don't need like absolute free flexibility to everything. Just instead of putting me in numbers or put a free flow, give me percentages, no? Like give me percentages that I can set up in the background, like show 95, show 90 would be nice.
So you would say two things. So setting limits, min and max with percentages would be good. And also adding steps if you want to add it. So just say, okay, you can always just choose 10,000, 20,000 and so on.
Very good summarizing. Then we can send the videos straight to the Data Studio team.
Okay, really good. The next thing you also mentioned, we mentioned in the filter thing, exactly. And that is quite interesting. So what you mentioned there is, for example, you have a drop-down with, I don't know, 10 countries, for example. You want to filter for a country, and you have, for example, you sell your stuff in 10 countries, but I don't know, you just want to show 5 countries, and the rest is under other, right? And that is possible in Data Studio.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
There you go.
So
I take it back. They heard me.
Yeah. So you can. So for example, let's say you want to show the biggest 5 countries, and the other should go on other. Then you put your max limits of rows on your right side in the settings, where you can also do it for tables and so on. You put there 6. I think it says just some steps, so 1, 2, 5, 10, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's not really flexible, so completely flexible, but quite good.
Yeah.
And the rest then is under other. Or I think it's under
Good
other.
one.
But I also found it out quite after our recording session.
I take it back, Data Studio. You're the best. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to say it, but it was funny when I found it out.
Anything else? But I have to say, then we've made. This is our 3rd, 4th missing features.
Yeah, something like that.
Almost nothing has made it there, so we're still waiting. But you can forward this to anybody. We're waiting to see this. We're waiting to see some of this being integrated into Data Studio.
Yeah. So maybe So for example, but as we said, Data Studio or Google is still working on that stuff. So for example, which also were on the list was the data blending. We also coming in some recordings and some videos about data blending in Data Studio. Maybe as already a spoiler, we don't use it so much due to some reasons, but we will talk about it later. And there, some weeks ago, I think, was just the possibility to do a left join in the data blending. And that, for example, Data Studio fixed now, so you can use every normal join operation, so left join, right join, inner join, full join, cross join. All of these are possible, and they also made some other improvements, but we can also maybe talk about it later.
Yeah, but that was really annoying. Now I remember that even if you just wanted to make, you couldn't have left joins, but then you had like the tables and they were like, okay, I need to switch them around completely just to then take why? But now it's all.
Especially then if you have 3 or 4 data sources you want to connect, that was quite quickly not really possible to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. So now it's fixed. Now you can use it. But as I said, I would maybe talk about it later.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any other missing features we quickly can talk about? Not really, I would say.
I think it's good.
I think we already have 500 videos about. So
I think we already have quite a long series. That I really hope that soon we're gonna be making videos of all the new features that came up. Mm-hmm. We were talking about that recently. That there was like a moment there that new features were coming out that quite at a nice pace there, and I think in the last couple of months, outside of this data blending part, that maybe it was a lot of work there to make that happen. We're waiting for new round of good updates.
So I think we cannot tick any of the things we already mentioned in the missing features, I think, but we didn't start.
The data blending one, no?
Yeah, the data blending, okay, but let's see. They still improve it in terms of connectivity and so on, and also the big thing was the BigQuery data freshness thing, that you can have your data freshness every minute if you want. So that was maybe also one thing. But still a lot of stuff on the list for Data Studio they can improve. And maybe when we find new stuff in our daily work with Data Studio, we will write it down and talk about it.
Yeah.
Then in missing features 501.
But for the moment, I think we can wrap up the missing features section, but for the moment. And we can start wrapping up this video with telling Alex how can they follow more datadice content.
So we have our Medium blog posts. We also have there some kind of missing features. We put it in 2021. We had one, I think. Would be interesting if there is. I think the Google Maps thing, for example, was still inside. That you cannot show the Google Maps in embedded reports. That is already possible. So also check that out. But as I said, it's maybe I think we also talked about to do a new one for this year. So Medium blog posts. Then we have YouTube. So subscribe to our channel. Watch the other videos. All of the other missing features videos for sure. Then we have our newsletter. Cool data visualizations topics about age and genders and everything else and companies and so on. And then we have also LinkedIn. Where we also push a lot of new stuff about the company, about technical stuff and so on and so on.
YouTube, Medium, LinkedIn, newsletter.
A lot of stuff already.
Staying busy. Good. Then thanks everyone for watching and hope to see you soon.
Bye.